There's a lot of waiting as a mascot, waiting to get all my costume pieces on correctly, waiting to go out into a crowd, waiting for some mom to take my picture. Okay, Johnny, go up there and ask the mascot for a photo real quick. Oh, hi, Mr. Mascot. Can my little Johnny get a quick photo real quick? Okay, here we go. Sorry, I just got a new camera on my phone. And Bobby, how do you work this camera? Oh, sorry, mascot. I bet it's hot in there, huh? Okay, and here we go. And 1, 2... Mascot, I don't see you smiling. Okay, and 1, 2... Did the flash go off? Oh, we gotta get the flash to go off. We'll do it one more time. I just stand there and wait. Luckily, Johnny can't see what face I'm making or what finger I'm holding up behind my charming mascot smile. So I got into the mascotting business. You know, a mascot is just this huge, larger-than-life figure that parades, dances around on the streets at sports venues, and I fell into it one day at the fast food restaurant I was working at, and it stuck, and I carried on with it for 8 years into college, and it was just this great way of getting out there and performing, doing whatever I wanted without anyone knowing who I was. And then as I started writing this show about my own identity, I thought, well, I've been a mascot, and that's so neat and different, and people aren't expecting to go to the theater and see this dancing bull when I come out on stage. But then I started thinking, well, who am I when I take this mascot costume off? So the show starts out with me coming out in this crazy costume, and then I take it off, and that's really, as I take the layers of it off, I'm also exposing myself as Jordan. The piece started out as just a self-identity piece. And then as I realized how big of a role my family has played into my own life, I knew that I had to put them into the show. And then I started putting their stories in, and that's when my 2 brothers, Neil and Richie, who were born with cystic fibrosis, became such a driving point through the play, is that their journey with their disease and me as their sibling was such a hardship, but such an important part of who I became as a young adult, and I knew that I had to share that story as well. And so I think overall, at the end of the day, when you look at what my family had, one of the biggest things we still had was our religion, and that really kind of glued us together and kept us together, and that we have this foundation that won't tear apart no matter what happens.
Yeah. Are there a lot of Jews in Texas?
Not really, no. Most of the Jewish friends that I had were in my Sunday school that I went to, and that's where I sort of felt the first connection of my own Judaism. And especially when I moved up to Oklahoma for school, for college, I felt even less of a Jewish community, and that really made me want to find a closer connection to my religion.
So you say you went to Sunday school. Is that attached to a synagogue?
Yes, it is. You have your bar mitzvah, and then you go through into confirmation and then graduation. And there was a nice group of about 25 of us who went to different public schools, but always met up on the weekends for Sunday school. And it was educational, but also a social gathering.
Yeah. So that's your peer group, really, isn't it? Your Jewish peer group.
Yeah, definitely. And I'm still in touch with most of them today.
Is that progressive Judaism?
It's conservative, but I think most of us, as we went to college, sort of found our own classification of who we were as Jews.
Well, that's clearly then quite important to you, always has been.
There was always a strong feeling of Judaism growing up in my house with my grandparents and extended family. We would celebrate all the Jewish holidays together. And I think as I got older, I really found what the purpose of religion was to me and how it could aid me in my growth and my hardships and sort of the good and bad and what you can really take from it to benefit you.
How does it connect with your theatre? Because you use it quite a lot in your theatre, don't you?
Yes. I think it's that age-old question, is it a Jewish play or is it a play with Jewish themes in it? And I think that when I write, I can't help that I'm Jewish. And so some things are going to lay over and come through just because of my own experiences. And when I wrote this show, I knew that if I'm going to share about my life, that I have to talk about Judaism because it's such a pivotal point in my shaping and growth. And so that's really how it became such a predominant theme in the show.
You're very, very moving in the show about your brother, Richie, and it feels almost like it's a dedication to his memory now, although it's so much about you, because it's no secret to say it drives towards his death, and he was obviously an extraordinary young man who just lived life to the full as long as he could. And so in a way it's your tribute to him. You're making it work for him even now, aren't you, for people with cystic fibrosis?
Yes. I mean, I think that's the real beauty of theater, is that you can come in expecting one thing and leave with 10 other things coming through that. And so when I was writing the play, that was really important, that yes, I wanted to make it a tribute for Richie, and yes, I wanted to share these things about my life and talk about my family and all these other things. And there is a way to do that in a compilation of life stories. And so I think that can really come through for anyone, Jewish or not, who comes to see the show, can feel a connection. Maybe you're not Jewish, but you've had your own journey with your own religion, or maybe you haven't experienced the death of a loved one, but you've known someone who's gone through that, or you've been through a similar experience. And so I think that's the journey in the playwriting, and hopefully in the performance, that it comes across that you can leave feeling these different levels of emotion.
Now, we're making it sound it's all very sad,
Right, yes.
aren't we? It's actually incredibly funny, a lot of that being down to your extraordinary ability to take on the personas of all your family, particularly the women. And I want to know how long you've been doing that. When did you first realise that you were fantastically good at just becoming other people around you?
What a nice compliment. I don't know. I've always did performances growing up, like mocking my teachers at school, and who were all women, and if my family was bringing friends over, I would make them all stay after dessert and do a performance of whatever in the living room. And so I think it started at a very young age, and just anything I could do to get a laugh. And as I was developing this play, instead of it being just me talking, I thought it would be really neat for the audience to really see this character body movement voice. And that's sort of how the development of these full-fledged, outrageous family members who seem like a caricature, but are probably not too far from who they are. And that's the fun of it, is that you can also come to it and probably pick someone out in my family who's very similar to your own family.
Just give us a little bit of perhaps your sister and your mum, can you?
Sure. So my mom's name is Barbie. Yes, Barbie. But unlike the plastic doll, this Barbie is far from simple. Jordan, you will bring down your dirty clothes right this second. I don't care. You have to go hang out with your friends. I don't care what other things. Hello? Hey, Susan, how are you? Yeah, no, everything is fine over here. Get up there right now. Okay, sure thing. All right, bye-bye. Bring down your clothes right this second. My sister, Bryna, thinks that she's, well, let's just say the next Dallas Cowboys cheerleader. Hey, J to the Orden, I'm working to bring in sexy back. Ah. Hey, Bryna, why are you walking around with a purse that has an R on it? Because I like it? Ah. Yeah, but Bryna starts with a B, not an R. Well, you can call me Rhina. Whatever.
You know what? I think there's a space waiting for your mother in Desperate Housewives. I really do. Right, so the men are not downtrodden in your family, are they?
No, not at all. It's a real boxing match to see who can get the attention in the family. I think that my family, they can laugh at themselves, and they know that this is just all in good taste, and that there's a bigger story to be told, and a driving force through that, and that if people can laugh through it, then it's worth it.
And they've all been to see it, have they?
Yes, they've seen it many times. I started performing it in my living room in my house, and so they saw many drafts, and we're really big in the shaping of the piece as it came along.
Now, Richie actually had a very big part in shaping it, didn't he? So he knew what it was going to be like, didn't he?
Yeah, I think Richie was a really amazing kid because he was so beyond his years. When you would see him physically, he was so small in stature and size and looked much younger than he really was when he was a teenager. But he was so intelligent and smart. When I had a solid draft of it, the first person I read it to was Richie. And he critiqued it and gave me notes, sort of like a director would. And so he was just very, very transformative in shaping the piece. And I think still, even though he's passed away, that there's still a sparkle of him that comes through in every show. At least for me, I really feel his presence on stage.
I like the word you use, sparkle. Another big theme that runs through, and this is part of him as well, is you're quite a sporty family, aren't you? And he may have been confined to a wheelchair part of the time, but he was almost like a sports coach, wasn't he?
Yeah. Richie always wanted to play sports, and because physically he couldn't, he found a way to be involved in sports. And he was the manager of his high school basketball team and ran these betting pools with all the sports. He was so big into it, and it was a huge hobby for him, and I share that part of him in the show, and I think it really makes him more human and more relatable, is that he was just a normal kid and liked normal things like everyone else, even though he had this disease that was attached to him.
And you're using the show to try and make people aware of how important it is to donate organs, because your brother needed new lungs, and in fact his life was prolonged by several years by having new lungs, wasn't it?
Yes, absolutely. He was diagnosed with end-stage lung disease at age 5, received a double lung transplant at age 6. The doctor said he probably wouldn't live past age 8. He ended up living to almost his 18th birthday. And that was due to a family who donated their daughter's organs. And to have those 10, 11 years with Richie, for me, was so influential, for my whole family, all his friends, people who knew him. And so one of the things that, as I travel with the show and perform it, is that people can hear his story and hear how organ donation has affected his life, my family's life, and then really consider, after leaving the show, if they want to become an organ donor, if they want to talk to their family about it, because it's a pretty new medical breakthrough, and there's a lot of misnomers and myths about organ donation even today, that I'm trying to clear some of that up and just educate people.
And in some ways the show is also a tribute to the little girl and her parents, whose lungs enabled him to live after she died in a car accident. I mean, you make her live by naming her and telling her story a bit, don't you?
Yeah, we don't have any contact with her family. My family doesn't. And I tried for everyone that I portray in the show to say, hey, I'm doing this show and you're in it. But I couldn't do that with this family. And so I was a bit concerned at first with, this is not my right to share this part. But then I thought about how much it meant to my family. And that even if this family never finds out that this show is going on and they've affected my life and my family's life so much, that they've just given this incredible gift and it's made this big of an impact.
Do you want to name her so that people can hear her name?
Her name is Stacy.
I think it's very important, because you say her name and in a way you're acknowledging, that debt, aren't you?
Right, yeah. And when she died and her organs went into Richie, I think a little bit of her went into Richie, and now in whatever is after death, I think that they've met up or found a way to connect. I think that's a really powerful emotional context that is sort of weaved throughout in the show.